welcome back to the deep dive.
Yeah.
So, if you've been keeping an eye on the literary seas lately, you know the waters have been a little choppy.
Maybe a bit stagnant, even.
Exactly. But you should probably grab a life jacket, because J-Novel Club just unleashed what I can only describe as a tidal wave.
That's a good way to put it.
I mean, we are not talking about a trickle of content here. We're talking about a massive injection of stories, 10 new light novels, 3 manga series, and a whole stack of print editions hitting shelves.
It's a really significant expansion, and for anyone who might be new to this whole ecosystem, a drop of this magnitude from a publisher like J-Novel Club, well, it's not just a shopping list.
No, not at all.
We're looking at a pipeline that brings the raw, experimental, and sometimes, frankly, bizarre trends from Japanese pop culture straight to the West. It's a snapshot of what's resonating right now.
And that's exactly our mission today. We're not just going to read off titles. We want to unpack the types of stories being told here.
The underlying themes.
Because when I looked at this list, I saw this really weird, really specific cross-section of modern anxiety and wish fulfillment. We've got coding schools founded by cosplayers. We have nuns who are actually mafia royalty.
And a surprising number of people trying to clean up their cringe pasts.
Yes, it's a fascinating mix.
It is. And if you look past the covers, you can see 3 distinct trends emerging. First, there's a move toward what I'd call workplace dramas, wearing a fantasy skin.
Okay.
Second, a massive villain renaissance stories told from the bad guy's point of view. And third, a deconstruction of the overpowered trope, where having godlike powers is actually just a logistical nightmare.
I want to start with that first one, the workplace drama. Because usually when we talk about these fantasy stories, especially isekai, the whole point is leaving your job.
Right. That's the escapism. You get hit by a truck, you wake up somewhere magical, you never have to file a tax return again.
But this new batch of titles, they seem to be dragging the 9-to-5 grind right into the dungeon with them.
That is a great observation. And the standout title here has to be Fired. But I maintain all the software by Yuki Kashiro.
I have to say that title alone is just... it's too real. It sounds like a LinkedIn post gone horribly wrong.
It cuts deep, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The protagonist, Ai Sato, she's a star engineer, the one person keeping the digital lights on.
And she gets fired.
She gets fired. And the reason isn't incompetence, it's culture fit. Her new boss finds out she's a cosplayer and decides that doesn't align with the corporate image.
Which is infuriating. I think a lot of people can relate to that feeling of being judged for what you do off the clock.
Of course. But the revenge here isn't finding a magic sword. She teams up with an old friend, Kenta Suzuki, and they open a coding school.
So no castles are blown up.
None. And this is where we get a really interesting insight. The story isn't really about coding. It's about the salaryman crisis.
What do you mean by that?
Well, their first student is this man who's so disconnected from his family, from his own identity, that he's basically a hollow shell. AI isn't just teaching him Python, she's teaching him how to rebuild his confidence.
So it's vocational rehabilitation as a plot device.
In a sense, yeah. It shifts the whole fantasy paradigm. The fantasy isn't slaying the dragon. The fantasy is finding a workplace where I can be my authentic self.
Where you aren't judged for your hobbies.
Exactly. It suggests the ultimate victory is just a healthy work-life balance.
That's surprisingly hopeful for a story that starts with getting fired. But then you have Miss Medic's Diary at War, which takes the job aspect and makes it incredibly dark.
This is a hard pivot in tone, absolutely. We're moving from the server room to the triage tent. The protagonist, Tori Noel, is only 15.
15, and she's drafted. That seems intense.
It is, and that's the point. She's a combat medic with healing magic, which makes her a strategic asset. Now think about healing in video games. You press a button, the health bar goes up, it's clean.
Right. No mess.
This story asks, what does that actually look like in a war? It sounds gruesome because it is. You're dealing with the physical trauma, but also the psychological trauma of a teenager responsible for keeping soldiers alive.
And the source material highlights this tension, right? Between her past and her present.
It does. Tori retains memories of a carefree past, which clashes violently with the brutal reality she's living in. It's an examination of PTSD and resilience. The magic isn't a superpower here. It's a burden that forces her to witness horror up close.
It feels like identity is the thread connecting these two then. Ai Sato fights for her identity as a cosplayer. Tori fights to keep her identity as a normal girl.
And then you have Sister Mafioso.
This one might be the most extreme example of that identity crisis.
I think so. You have Dina Ferletti, She starts as a mafia princess, crime family royalty. Then, in a classic mob turn, she gets tossed in a canal.
The old concrete shoes treatment, a classic.
She survives, but she goes into hiding. Spends a whole decade training to be a nun. Cultivates peace, piety, silence. Completely rewrites who she is.
And then, I'm guessing, just when she thinks she's safe.
The past knocks on the door. She gets dragged back into the family chaos. And the conflict here is so fascinating because it's entirely internal. How do you reconcile 10 years of religious discipline with a childhood of organized crime?
It's like The Godfather meets The Sound of Music.
That's a way to put it. But it's really about the inescapable nature of family. She's navigating a web of lies to keep her head intact physically, but also trying to keep her soul intact spiritually.
So that's our first bucket. Real-world problems invading the fantasy space.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears to the people who usually cause those problems. The villains.
The villain renaissance, it's huge right now. It feels like every other new title is about being the bad guy.
Yeah, why is that happening now? For the longest time, villains were just cardboard cutouts there to be punched by the hero. Now they're the main characters.
It raises a really important question about agency. Think about the traditional hero. They're reactive. The demon lord attacks, so the hero fights back.
They're always cleaning up someone else's mess.
Exactly. Villains. Villains are proactive. They have plans, ambition. They drive the plot.
Or in the case of the reincarnated mastermind, sundering fate with magic swords, they have anxiety.
Anxiety is a powerful motivator. So, our protagonist, Ren, he plays a video game, clears it, and then gets reborn into that world. But not as the hero. He wakes up as the mid-game boss who is destined to die.
And this is that meta-narrative you mentioned. Ren knows he's in a story. He knows the script says Ren dies in Chapter 5.
So his entire motivation is breaking that script. He's not trying to conquer the world. He's trying to dodge danger. He's using his game knowledge to dismantle the destined showdowns before they can even happen.
It's a survival story then.
But it's played almost like a legal thriller, where he's finding loopholes in the contract of his own life.
Which invites the reader to think critically about story structure. Now contrast that with Reborn Terrain. Imposing my rules with my mastery of magic. The title alone suggests a very different attitude.
Very different. Vanitas Lindblom, he also wakes up knowing he's the destined villain.
And he doesn't try to run away. He doesn't go open a bakery somewhere.
Oh, he leans into it, but he subverts it. He decides to use his ancient magic not to terrorize people, but to generate unexpected charm.
Wait, he's weaponizing charisma?
Essentially, yes. He's taking the tropes of the scary Dark Lord, the mystery, the power, and recontextualizing them to make people fall in love with him instead of fear him. It's a story about public relations.
It's the bad boy trope as a strategic weapon. Brilliant.
It is. But we can't talk about villains without the villainous genre. Proud to be the villainess. This one sounds less comedic.
And more. Inevitable.
Much less comedic. This falls into the tragic redemption category. The protagonist, Whelmy Ernest, has spent her life being the wicked sister, tormenting her sibling, Iora.
We've all seen that story. We know how it ends for the wicked sister.
Exactly. But here, we see the cost. There's a grand engagement. And Whelmy realizes her manipulations have spiraled out of control. Her wickedness has real consequences.
So it's about her realizing she's trapped by her own bad behavior.
It turns the caricature into a human being. A cautionary tale. Speaking of which, we have to talk about the title that made me laugh out loud. Return of the Corpse King. Reining in my cringe secret society.
This is the one. I think this will resonate with anyone who's ever looked at their old social media posts.
Oh, it's painful. I try not to look.
So what's the premise here?
It's peak comedy. Hizaki Shio. He used to be a hero, a demon king slayer. And back in his edgy teenage phase, he created a secret society called Helheim. Wrote the lore, designed the costumes.
We've all been there. Dressed in all black, writing bad poetry, thinking we're deep.
Exactly. But then he leaves. Years pass, he gets summoned back to this world and discovers that his fake secret society actually took over. It became a real dystopia. His teenage fan fiction is now a geopolitical nightmare.
No way. So he's essentially fighting his own teenage embarrassment.
On a global scale, the villain here isn't a dragon. It's the protagonist's own past bad taste.
I love that. It's not, I must save the world from evil. It's, I must save the world from that cringe thing I did when I was 14.
It all connects back to that theme of agency. All these villain stories are about people looking at the role they were assigned and saying, nope, I want to edit the script.
Which brings us to our third big trend. We've had the workers, we've had the villains. Now let's talk about the gods. Or uh, the problem with being one.
The overpowered protagonist. For a long time, this was pure wish fulfillment. I want to be the strongest so no one can hurt me.
But this new batch suggests that being the strongest is actually really, really annoying.
We call this the power paradox. The story only works if the power is the problem. Look at starting on hard mode. God levels, got problems.
The title is Truth in Advertising.
You've got Merlin. He just wants a carefree life. He wants to chill. But the text says a casual flick of his finger shatters the ground.
So you try to make a sandwich, spread the mayo, and you accidentally cleave the kitchen in half.
Precisely. His power isolates him from the normalcy he craves. The conflict isn't, can Merlin win? The answer is always yes. It's, can Merlin get through the day without destroying the local infrastructure?
It turns action into comedy. But the path of an S-rank adventurer takes that same setup and goes dark with it.
Yes, Highs, the protagonist there, starts from weakness. He's kicked out of a sacred party for being dead weight.
The classic rejection, you're not good enough.
But fueled by that abandonment, he gains unfathomable strength. And here, the power isn't an annoyance, it's a tool for revenge. But the result is the same as Merlin's isolation.
It's lonely at the top.
It really is. When you become an S-rank being, you can no longer relate to normal people. The gap becomes unbridgeable. Absolute power creates absolute distance.
Right, so we've covered the heavy hitters, but before we wrap up, we have cater to very specific obsessions.
They're casting a wide net here. This is the long tail of fandom, serving every specific interest.
First up in manga, the accursed chef and his pair of furry foodies.
This taps right into the gourmet fantasy trend. It's about a guy named Thor who loves beast folk. A nice way of saying he's a furry enthusiast, and he gets reborn with culinary essence.
It sounds ridiculous, but cozy fantasy is huge right now. People love reading about cooking.
It is. It's low stakes. It's comfort reading. It says even in a dungeon, you can still have a good meal.
And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, all eyes on the Koyashiki-kun. This isn't fantasy at all.
No, this is for the creatives in the audience. Nikurishiki Mamoru is a struggling indie manga artist with all the insecurities that come with that.
And his childhood friend is a famous idol.
Right, and it explores that jealousy, that gap between making art and being famous. It's surprisingly grounded. It really deals with that imposter syndrome we all feel.
And finally, the print editions. There's one here that sounds like a video game nightmare. The 100th times the charm.
Lady Alfina. The blurb is wild. She has been executed 99 times.
99 times. At what point do you just stop trying? I think I'd quit after 5.
Well, on the 100th loop, the mechanics change. She gets mind-reading powers. The goal is to unlock super love mode to survive.
So it's a time loop story, but gamified. Like Groundhog Day meets a dating sim.
Exactly. It speaks to persistence in the face of just absurd odds.
So stepping back, we've looked at coding schools, mafia nuns, cringy secret societies, and 99 executions. What is the big takeaway here?
I think it points to a desire for what I call complex escapism.
Complex in what way?
Well, look at the pattern. Almost none of these protagonists are running toward a traditional adventure. Ren wants to dodge his villain role. Merlin wants to dodge the burden of his power. AI wants to escape the corporate mold.
They aren't trying to save the world, they're trying to fix their lives.
Precisely. In a world of information overload, much like this flood of titles we've just discussed, perhaps the ultimate fantasy isn't fighting a dragon. Maybe the ultimate fantasy is just agency.
The ability to say no.
The ability to say, no, I don't want to be the villain, or I don't want to be the hero, or I don't want to be an engineer who can't cosplay. It's the fantasy of rewriting your own script.
That's a powerful thought. Whether that means opening a coding school or just learning to cook for beast folk, it's about taking control of the narrative.
That's it. J-Novel Club isn't just selling stories. They're selling 13 different ways to hit the reset button on reality.
There you have it. A massive sandbox to play in. Whether you're looking for high-stakes drama or just some good old-fashioned cringe comedy, the floodgates are open.
Indeed. It's a fascinating snapshot of modern storytelling.
Thanks for diving in with us. Before we go, here's the thought to chew on. If you were reincarnated into a story based on your own teenage years, would you be the hero or would you be the villain desperately trying to burn the evidence?
Oh, I think for legal reasons, I have to say I'd be the villain hiding the evidence.
I'm right there with you. Catch you next time on The Deep Dive.